It's really difficult to overstate the importance, at least in terms of promise. The challenge will be to see if Javier Milei is as shrewd on the inside as he was on the outside. But the promise of what Milei could be for Argentina, and by extension South America, and by extension Central America, and by extension the Western Hemisphere. He is speaking with moral clarity, and the antics are entertaining, and it's okay to be entertaining. It makes important ideas accessible to people. You bring your ideas to where people actually live. That's a good thing. That's what Milton Friedman did. That's why he was on the Phil Donahue show all the time. That's why he did Free to Choose, making these important ideas about how a free society should be ordered, how commerce should be conducted among a free people, accessible to people. That's a good thing. But it's not the only thing. The Mises Institute, a couple scholars at the Ludwig von Mises Institute, today, talking about the Argentine election over the weekend, today is a historic day for liberty, only comparable to the fall of the Berlin Wall and communism. Well, it could be. It could be. And if Milei is able to do, a quarter of what he is setting out to do, as he is articulated in no uncertain terms, then it will live up to that. Because that revolt that was sparked in Argentina and manifested itself in the results, his landslide victory this past weekend, that will spread to other countries. And if we get new leadership in this country next year and align with Milei, now we're really cooking with fire in the West. So that's perhaps an optimistic scenario, but it's a realistic one, given what happened, given his victory. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Steve Moore, economist and author of Govzilla. Steve, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, Dan, you are so right about the importance of this election. Now, I bet a lot of your listeners are like, well, why do I care about what's happening in Argentina? That's half a continent away from us. But it's a sonic boom politically. What happened there? I mean, for those who don't follow Argentina politics, I mean, this is a country. Remember, Dan, that 100 years ago was one of the 5 wealthiest countries in the world.
Yeah.
And it was almost on par with the United States in terms of its per capita income. Not quite, but close. So how do you go from being one of the richest countries in the world in 100 years to have despair and poverty everywhere in the country, where people's livelihoods have been ruined by socialist policies year after year after year? And one part of it, there's so much of the story that I find interesting, but just one little side point. The American media and the arts have celebrated the famous play Evita about Eva Perón.
Right.
She was not someone to be celebrated. She and Juan Perón destroyed Argentina. They turned Argentina from a free market country after World War II into the poorhouse with socialist policies. Why is it, Dan, that Evita is lionized here in America? It is
because of Madonna's portrayal. No, because because a lot of people don't know anything, and because Hollywood likes to glorify certain dictators. I mean, we know this. I mean, obviously you're right.
Yeah, but it's a side point. But my major point, though, is that now you have this. Finally, I mean, it's such a positive thing that happened there, because finally the people in Argentina finally rose up in revolt. And they finally said, this socialism is destroying our country. And it took them 40 years to realize that, Dan. But they finally are rising up in revolt.
There's hope for Illinois.
Yeah. How do you pronounce exactly? Is it Malo or how do you pronounce that?
Milei.
Yeah. So he wants to adopt the U.S. dollar as the national currency. Do you think
Yes. Very smart. Very smart. In fact, I was just writing a column on that this morning. They have to dollarize. Do you know what the inflation? By the way, it used to be that it would take about 4 pesos to to buy Argentine pesos to buy a dollar. Like
Right.
20 years ago, 4 pesos to buy a dollar. Now it's like 300 pesos
What?
to buy a dollar. And I just had one of my good friends just got back to Argentina and said that's just the official exchange rate. He said if you're
Right.
actually in Argentina, it's not 300, it's 600 pesos to get
Oh my
$1.
gosh.
In other words, they
Well,
completely
yeah, they've got. I
destroyed.
mean, we mentioned this on Monday in doing the review of what happened
Yeah.
over the weekend. That October, the inflation rate in Argentina clocked in at 143%. So you think you're taking it in the shorts at a
That was the month.
supermarket?
By the way, hold on. Yeah,
That was
that
for the
was
month.
the monthly.
For the month of October. Yes, right. I know.
I
But I
know.
mean, my point is to say, you think you're taking it in the shorts in America at the grocery store, right? Think about if you're in Buenos Aires.
Yeah. Now the cool thing, I mean, there's so many interesting parts about this story, but this guy, he was campaigning. He at one point, Grover Norquist, no tax pledge. You know
Yeah,
that
he took it.
Grover
I know.
But he took it a step further. He went on national TV and said, "I will cut off my arm if I raise taxes." And then he went on another show, and they asked him, "What is he going to do about the budget?" And he came out with a chainsaw. He said, "I'm going to take a chainsaw out of the budget." Boy, you need that in Chicago. We need that in Washington, D.C. So, I mean, there's hope. By the way, I just find it so funny. I mean, the international bankers, all these hoity-toity, political leaders are terrified by what's happening in Argentina.
Well, of course they are, because they see the possibility of exactly what I said. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of other countries struggling too. We mentioned this the other day too. Marco Rubio made a good point in an interview he gave to a Florida media outlet. This was before Milei's victory over the weekend. But he was talking about Central and South America, which, we don't talk perhaps enough about. We don't pay enough attention to when we're focused on China and Iran and Russia and the Middle East. But right in our backyard here, and how misaligned the Biden administration is with partners we could have in the region, but have given up on America because, just like we see overseas with the Iran nuclear deal and our energy policy, we treat our enemies like our friends, and we cut deals with our enemies while we give our allies a hard time because we disagree with a particular policy that doesn't fit our leftist orthodoxy. And he gave many examples: El Salvador, Bukele, in Guatemala as well, when the Dominican was dealing with a migrant problem with Haitians coming across their border. I mean, and so the idea, that's why I said a big caveat to this, it seems to me, is we need to get new leadership in this country for all kinds of reasons, but one of them is so we can align with our allies in Central and South America.
Well, how can we do that when we've got a president who's aligning himself with China? I mean, you saw what
Right.
happened last
Right.
week, in San Francisco. It was just, Amy, it was an outrage. And by the way, I'm just not poking up my finger at Biden. How about these CEOs, Dan and Amy, of major American companies, from Google to BlackRock to Blackstone to J.P. Morgan? They gave President Xi, who's like, a tyrant, a standing ovation. I mean, look, I'm for the almighty dollar. I'm for American companies to be profitable. But how about a little patriotism here? I mean, we're on the verge of World War III with China. It's like the appeasement of Hitler in the 1930s. It's the craziest thing that these companies and Biden. Why does Biden do that? By the way, why does Biden suck up to China? Because when he goes over there, or John Kerry goes over there, they say, "Oh yeah, we care about climate change." And, "Oh well, he cares about climate change. He must be one of our allies." By the way, they don't care about climate change. They're just using us. And so it's just like we have a confederacy of dunces in America that don't realize who our friends are and who our allies are. We need to embrace, as Reagan did, the people who stand for freedom and free enterprise and peace.
And everybody should read John Kennedy Toole's book, Confederacy of Dunces, since you brought it up too while they're at it.
Yeah.
Speaking of,
just one other quick thing, because I never answered Amy's question about dollarizing. Yes.
well, of course.
This is what they need to do. This is, by the way, how one of the ways China got rich in the starting in the late 80s through around the recent times. They dollarized the yuan, and so they basically contracted out their monetary system to the more stable dollar. That's when we had a stable dollar, and boy, did that that was a big part of China's huge success, and Argentina needs to do that.
Well, the other thing he wants to do is eliminate the central bank. I mean, I don't want to put Jay Powell out of a job here, but there exactly. I'd like to see that.
Oh my God, that's what central bankers are just. I mean, I've been reading all the stories of, oh my God, this guy's the most dangerous tyrant that's ever walked on the planet.
Right. He's the tyrant when he says, "Look, private business, you want to do business with communists, that's fine, but as a government, I'm not signing any pacts with communists in China or Nicaragua or Cuba or Venezuela." And just first of all, the statement about the anti-communist statement is one layer of it, and the other layer is a politician who actually distinguishes between the state and the private sector.
Yes. Yep. I mean, he is a little bit like Trump in the sense that he's an economic populist, and he understands the rage of the citizenry around. People are just sick of big government, and people are sick of government telling people what they can do and what they can't do. Trump tapped into that. So did this new Argentinian president. And I think this could be like this could spread around the world. And wouldn't that make the world a better place if we got rid of these arrogant politicians who think they know all the answers and take away our money and inflate our currency? And you look at Argentina, by the way, folks, pay attention. How did they get into that crisis? They borrowed and massively increased their debt and the size of government. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, a lot of it does. Steve Moore, economist, Godzilla author. Thanks for, as always, Steve. Thanks.
Have a happy Thanksgiving, guys.
Thanks, you too. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Homeowners experiencing low water pressure, rusty yellow water, little to no hot water, or pressure so low that showering is difficult?
Honey, don't flush. I'm in the shower.
These are all symptoms of clogged and corroded galvanized water pipes that are filled with gunk older than you. You should see it. It's disgusting. You drink it, brush your teeth with it, and bathe in it. Yuck. For your family's sake,